What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, we'll break down what's going on with Tesla stock and what you should be watching for going forward. I'm also going to talk about the overall market, what happened for today, as we saw lots of manipulation, and what these shorts are doing to Tesla now, as we saw lots of them pile in again into Tesla. Before I break anything down about all this information, though, before I talk about what's going on with Tesla stock, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Tesla's down 0.76% for the day, and so far we did see Tesla drop with the market at the very end of the day. However, in the very beginning, we saw Tesla do something very similar to what happened before. And I mentioned this during my pre market video that we have a tendency of pumping, then dumping during the day, during the first like 30 minutes to 1 hour of the open. And what I mean by that is if you look at Tesla since like Monday of this week, we saw Tesla pump very nicely to 284 on Monday, then dump right back down before it started to trade sideways. Then on this would have been on Wednesday because the market was closed on the 4th of July. Tesla got this very nice pump again to about 282 before coming right back down to about 277, then trading sideways. But it got an end of the day pump with the market. This was despite the FOMC minutes coming out. And then after that, as the market slowed down, Tesla actually got a pump right here near open, a very quick pump to about 280 as we had this surge in volume before it went from 280 all the way down to 272. Then Tesla started to recover a bit and started trading sideways, and this was yesterday. And then today, the same thing happened. Tesla got this very nice pump in the morning to about 280 again. Then it came all the way back down to 274. Started pumping again after we got some bullish news. And despite the bullish news, we didn't really have any negative news, but the whole market started selling off. And many of these institutions got algos to adjust to start selling at the very end of the day. Now, this could be some profit taking that played somewhat of a role, but it wasn't just that. There was also a large aspect of manipulation, in my opinion, which I'm going to expose in just a couple of minutes. But first, let's talk about what happened to the market. I'm going to go on TradingView now and just talk about SPY, because what happens to SPY, what happens to the QQQ, the NASDAQ, and etc., it has an effect on Tesla, and simultaneously Tesla could affect them. But you have to remember, this market is moving on a very similar algorithm. So look at this right here. We have Tesla. It was pumping with the market, came down, pumped up, came down with the market similarly. It was dropping a lot more during the very end of 2022, especially with the whole Elon Musk selling shares thing. But then if you look since the start of this year, Tesla pumped with SPY, came down with it, pumped with it. They came down together and they started pumping very similarly. And this shows that Tesla could affect SPY. SPY could also have a big impact because of how the whole market moves very collectively. And if you look at the QQQ or the NASDAQ, right, something very similar could be seen right over here. You could see how Tesla was moving very similar to it, once again being very correlated with the triple Q. And then going into this year, you could see they pumped together, they came down together, and they've been pumping very similarly as of recent. So the whole market is very manipulated in a way where there's a very similar algorithm that dictates these stocks. But I'm going to break down why this is relevant in just a couple of minutes. First, let's look at what happened today. So in the morning, okay, the market had this data that came out. Just a quick recap, non-farm payrolls were lower than expected at 209,000, right? We want this to be around, or I'm sorry, we wanted this to be very low. Technically, that's what the stock market wanted. Not saying this in general, I'm just talking about what the market wanted because I want people to have as many jobs as possible. I want the best for everyone, but the stock market doesn't think that way. The market has a different interpretation because of what the Fed has said. So the market wanted less job hirings. That's what we got right here on the non-farm payrolls. That was good for the stock market. This data right here at the very top, 209,000 is lower than 225 to 250,000. And then for the unemployment rate, this data was actually not good for the market because it was only 3.6%. We wanted this to be 3.7% or higher. We want higher unemployment, remember, because we want a weaker jobs market. So the data was very mixed. That's all you need to know is very, very mixed data. And then that's the reason why the market was very choppy in the morning. But today we saw quite a bit of manipulation on SPY. So what happened was, at least going back the last couple of days during the FOMC minutes, when the Fed was saying very hawkish things, the market actually pumped after the FOMC minutes came out, like right here. This was on Wednesday. They did this intentionally as a trap because when people turned bullish at the end of the day on Wednesday, When the jobs numbers came out on Thursday, basically they showed a strong jobs market. And because the Fed said that there could be a recession because of them raising rates even more, and then possibly raising rates more if the economy remained as strong as it is, the entire stock market just tanked with the fears of a more hawkish Fed. And most of this tanking happened during the pre-market on Wednesday. I'm sorry, on Thursday during the pre-market. And then basically retail missed the majority of this move. They gapped the market down and it came down pretty hard. Then started to recover a bit as a lot of people started turning bearish, like right around these levels. We saw lots of bearish positions being opened. The market starts pumping and pumping and pumping. Then we come to today, which is like right here. This is when the market was opening today. Market was very sideways in the beginning as the data was very mixed. And then we formed a bullish triangle-like structure on SPY right here. So you could draw it out right here. Got a nice breakout, right? And as this broke out, this happened to be at the same time that Tesla was breaking out too. Let me just pull up Tesla and show you on the 30 minutes time frame. Tesla started off very sideways, dropped a little bit, and got a very nice pump as well. Tesla dumped a little bit, then got a nice pump, and that's because we had some bullish news involving Mercedes. I talked about this just in my other video, so I'm not going to talk too much about this. Mercedes-Benz has joined the Tesla supercharging network. That is some good news for Tesla because it's going to build more revenue for them. According to Piper Sandler's reporter known as, I forgot his name, it was somewhere over here, but basically one of the reporters is saying, his name is Alexander Potter, that this is going to potentially add $3 billion in revenue for Tesla by 2030 and up to $5.4 billion by 2032. Anyways, that was bullish news for Tesla. That's why Tesla started pumping, right? But the whole market was actually pumping together at the same time. Now, what ended up happening to SPY was they had a trap in mind. A lot of retail started buying up here, and we were watching this level very carefully. This 442 zone, right? A lot of people were watching this gap up here. They wanted to see if this gap could get filled, and we ended up not filling this gap. We ended up coming just short of doing it. And the moment a lot of people turned bullish, they yanked the market right back down. And then we started testing this trend line. This is when I recorded my second video. And I told you guys that, hey, if we break below this, this would be bearish. If we broke below 441.5, we could see this thing coming all the way down to 440.5. And if that failed us, then we can drop lower. But if we bounced off this, we had the potential to try to push up for 443. We ended up getting a rejection, and they didn't just reject us a little bit, they smacked the market down like really fast. A lot of retail who were buying up here got hammered. It was all part of their game. This was a trap for a lot of people thinking that the market is going to come all the way up here, right? So this is why there's no real reason why the market had to sell off this hard, other than potential selling pressure at the end of the week. Uh, Maybe you could argue that there was some negative news from the Fed that played a role, but there wasn't specifically anything that would really cause that from what I was looking at. And they just used this as an excuse to once again find a way to bring the market down. But why did they bring the market down all the way down to the 438s? Well, they were aiming for this right over here. If you look at, I think I have the chart right here. Max pain on SPY was 438. They were aiming for that. So they wanted to bring the market down. So they smacked SPY down. The QQQ got smacked down too. And who else followed? The answer is Tesla. Tesla got smacked down too because of this as well. The whole market was moving on one algorithm, like I said before, and Tesla got dragged down as well. Now, there's other types of manipulation on Tesla, which we could discuss in another video, but I just wanted to talk about it in this one that's part of why Tesla sold off. There's also additional selling pressure. There are other factors. And then you also need to look at what's happening with the shorts on Tesla because sentiment's starting to shift on Tesla. Even though the news that came out was quite good, the shorts have a plan and they may not be looking for Tesla's best interest. Right over here, if we go down here, you will notice we saw a big increase in Tesla's short interest compared to before. Just a couple of days ago, we saw about 30 million Tesla shares shorted, which is relatively low compared to these levels up here. But now the short interest is starting to go up again, and we saw this thing at about 42.9 million. So almost 43 million Tesla shares were shorted just 2 days ago and likely started going up even more. So when the shorts pile into Tesla, if they start like jumping into Tesla, they have a tendency of finding a way to drag Tesla down. Remember, not too long ago, we saw all these downgrades on Tesla, and Tesla was dropping because all these companies started saying, oh, Tesla's going to underperform, sell your Tesla shares, this and that. It was just spontaneous, and they all started saying it at almost the exact same time, which is kind of suspicious. But as they started doing this, Tesla started dropping, and the shorts were in for their money. And then they started covering their positions. Tesla started pumping, approaching deliveries. And now we're going back to the cycle again where Tesla has been pumping so much, but the shorts are coming back again, and they're going to get ready to probably try to take Tesla down again. There's a chance it's going to happen, not guaranteeing it, but I just want to warn you about how relentless they could be. Now, there's another thing that they're doing. It involves dark pools. I will talk more about that maybe tomorrow. I want to make this a two-part video, make these videos kind of short since it is the weekend. For next week, do not forget we have some big catalysts coming out. I will talk more about that tomorrow. But for now let's just talk about Tesla very briefly, what's going on with the share price. So when it comes to Tesla, basically, Tesla was holding up quite nicely as long as the news remained positive and Tesla held these levels. It would have the potential to push all the way up to $300 approaching earnings if it held around these levels, especially by the end of next week. But because of this additional factor that came in, more shorts piling in, manipulation, and etc., they could try to drag Tesla down lower. If it does end up filling this gap, then it could bounce later on. I still think it could pump approaching earnings, but it's going to be harder for it to reach these much higher levels because of all this manipulation. And it is unfortunate, but it is what it is. We just have to watch the chart in real time and see how it moves. I do believe that Tesla's going to pump hard approaching earnings, though, once we approach that time frame over the next couple of weeks. We have about a week and a half until Tesla has earnings. I think it's a little bit longer than that, but we have some time until Tesla has earnings, so it's going to be very, very important. For now, however, Tesla's looking like it's starting to cool off a bit. You can see Tesla's been downtrending, making lower highs. The lower lows have been basically very similar, the lows it's been making, but it's making lower highs and starting to look a little bit weaker. On top of this, I just want to add that we're starting to see tech slow down a bit as we're approaching the big tech earnings. And the shorts are just piling into Tesla. They may try to get this thing to fill this gap down here. You're going to be watching some of these very important levels around like 270 on Tesla. I think I have my EMA somewhere here. So like 270 is going to be very important for Tesla. I think the 30-minute time frame shows this as support. I could be wrong, but it's okay. The 200 EMA on the 30-minute time frame is around 271. If it breaks below this, you're going to be watching 270. That's going to be very, very key for Tesla. If 270 fails us, watch 268. If that entire zone fails us, 270 to 268, it's going to likely fill this gap and go all the way down to the low 260s. Now, why is this going to happen? Well, you have to understand how the market works. Okay. The shorts are already piling into Tesla for some reason. Could they know something? Or could they be intentionally in the future controlling the news? I don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Who knows? And maybe they just want to suddenly show more negative news about Tesla, get more people to start downgrading Tesla, bashing Tesla, and that's going to drag Tesla down. Could that be their plan? That could be what they're thinking. They did this last time with all the downgrades all of a sudden. Maybe it's about to happen again, right? And then if that's the case, Tesla does start getting dragged down. So far, there hasn't really been negative news for Tesla, yet this thing started dropping today. There wasn't much negative news. Most of the news that came out for Tesla today, almost everything, was quite good for it. I mean, we have Mercedes now joining into the supercharger network. We had news about the Cybertruck being driven in New Zealand. It wasn't Tesla's fault. So in my video for tomorrow, I'm going to talk more about this, but I just want to keep this one short because it's the weekend that's coming up. Tesla, in essence, is still a strong company with very, very strong fundamentals. They may try to manipulate Tesla and try to drag this thing lower. I also want to add that I don't really mind Tesla dropping like another like $10 or so. I don't really mind it because when you zoom out, the gains have been just incredible with Tesla since we were in May. Tesla's almost twice the price it was at back around May when it was at 150. We're at 274. It's not that far from being twice as high almost. So like I said before, I mean, this thing is still up crazy big. A slight pullback would be completely fine. And these individuals, institutions are just trying very hard to just drag this thing down. If it happens, it is what it is, but this could be a very good buying opportunity because right before earnings comes on the 14th, we're likely going to see Tesla pump again. So if they drag this down, which I'm totally okay with, if it fills this gap going into next week, if that happens, right, that could be a good buying opportunity to start buying these dips because then Tesla could get a really nice run approaching earnings. And when I talk about buying the dips, I'm just talking about like loading up on calls or even just leaps. You can make a lot of money off the options on Tesla if you learn how to play it right. And then as we approach earnings, there could be a nice pump. But I typically like to just exit the options right before big events just for safety. I would take very small positions through them because it could be very risky. You don't know what's going to happen and how they're going to interpret the news. And I'd be very careful with Tesla because of those margins. They did announce lots of price cuts. Their margins may be eaten for this next earnings report. So just be very careful. But if the guidance is very strong for them nonetheless, it could still help them. So we don't know how earnings is going to go. The best thing to do is just be patient and just wait for what's about to happen. All right. So thank you all so much for listening. Have an absolutely incredible weekend. I will talk to you guys more about this later on. Don't worry too much about what the price is for the time being. Yes, there could be manipulation, but just enjoy the weekend for what it is. And we will talk more about Tesla's stock price later on. All right. So Tesla to the moon because the long term is still very bright. And peace out.